Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It is Sunday morning, so I thought I would jump back on, make a video and talk about Sunderland's 0-0 draw with Crystal Palace and talk about what we learned from the game and the result from a Sunderland perspective. So please let me know what you think in the comments below to anything that I've said. Please also like and subscribe. Let's dive into it. So first of all, let's talk about the goalkeeper. Robin Roefs, exceptional. He's been exceptional all season for Sunderland so far. Obviously we're only 4 games in, but he looks everything that you want in a Premier League goalkeeper. He showed his quality in this game. There were 6 saves, I think, and there was a couple of really good ones, some outrageous one. The Mateta one, which on yesterday's live stream, which if you haven't seen, go have a look and watch that. On the live stream yesterday, I sort of said that one might have been sort of fortunate placement, but actually when you watch it back, he moves his shoulder up, which means to me like he's had an instant reaction to save that Mateta shot, which was incredible. And just how he adjusts so quickly. We saw his save he made from Kamara. This was the one in the bottom as Roefs was diving the bottom right hand corner, and he clawed that out there. I actually thought when I was watching it live that one had went in. The double save he made from Uche, and then it comes back out to Kamara, who bends one at the top corner and he tips it round the corner. And I think it's just his general comfort in the net that really assures me. And I feel like, when we've had keepers in the past, and say, for example, Patterson, I was never like 100% sold on, particularly with crosses. I always thought he was a good shot stopper, but crosses coming in the box, and if there was chaos in and around the area, I always thought that he struggled in them sort of situations, whereas I feel like Roefs really excels, and I feel confident when there's a corner coming in that he's going to bat it away and he's going to claw it out. And I think that's really impressive, and that's why we've bought him for £11.5 million. It's an absolute steal. He looks like already, he's getting plaudits, but he looks like one of the better keepers, certainly in the lower half of the Premier League right now. So really happy with him, really happy with his performance. I'm sure we all are. And, he essentially saved us a point yesterday. Crystal Palace could easily have scored with the chances that they had, but his goalkeeping ability really saved us. And even the chance that in the first half, I think it was Pino missed, he was in one-on-one with the goalkeeper. It was the way that Roefs made himself so big coming out that made him put the shot wide. So he even deserves a lot of credit for that one. So that's a massive tick in the box for Sunderland. That is already looks like an incredible bit of business bringing him in. He's shown in the first 4 games that he's every bit a Premier League goalkeeper. And let's move up to the defence. And Alderete's block on Pino's chance, the one which I think Roefs had saved it from Mateta. It comes out and it looks like a surefire goal. He's got the whole net to aim at. And Alderete comes in and just somehow gets in the way of it, deflects it over the top. Unbelievable. And I thought Mukiele and Alderete were fantastic in Marshall and Mateta. Mateta, for being one of the best strikers in the Premier League, had a pretty quiet day, probably a very frustrating day from his perspective. And how many times do you see him, get a couple of half chances? Even the big chance that he did get came via like a deflection, a bit of fortune in there, and he gets in, and our keeper stops it. But I thought that our defence really handled him well. I thought Mukiele was fantastic in the game. Just looks like a rock-solid defender. And how does Dan Ballard get back into this defensive line? When he went down injured against Burnley, we all thought crisis. Oh, right, okay, we've left ourselves short at the back. But then you look at Alderete and Mukiele and you say, well, can Dan Ballard get back in? Is it fair to put him back in if he's fully fit? That's a really good position to be in. I mean, Ballard has been such a monumental figure in this team from the first game of the season and from the end of last season. The fact is, though, is the next man up is the mantra at the club. If you go down injured and somebody steps in and they do a really good job, how do you take them out? And I don't think it's fair to necessarily take a player out. So it's going to be really interesting, fascinating to see what happens when Ballard gets back fit. The midfield, I think defensively, the midfield looks really strong. As a unit, that goalkeeper, defensive midfield are just rock solid. It's a solid unit. Xhaka, Diarra and Sadiki just feel like they are able to win those midfield battles. I talked about a stat yesterday, but we win like the aerial duels, we're winning all the defensive duels, the dribbling duels, pretty much every single defensive duel, physical duels, we're winning them in games. That's making the difference between potentially a lack of quality. I'm not saying we don't have quality, but the quality difference between us and other Premier League teams, but also the fact that we haven't played together a lot. We haven't got necessarily the chemistry that a Crystal Palace team that's played together for years has. We win that, and we get into these games because we are so physically, it's fair to say, dominant in games, and that's a massive tick in the box. We talk about forward problems as well, and look, I think it's quite clear that there's a little bit of a disconnect between midfield and attack. Even in the games we've won at home, it still feels like we aren't playing fluidly between all the lines. And I think that's something that's going to come. Look, the attacking third is probably the hardest third to master. And I think that the players we've got, they all do have quality. And I have confidence that over the next month or two, that getting these players playing together a lot will build chemistry within that. But it does feel like we are struggling to create bundles of chances. I think we had a 0.36 XG yesterday, which is, not much. We didn't create a clear-cut chance. And that will be a problem for us going forward. You won't always keep clean sheets on the road. But is it by design? Is it possible that the club went, or the team, the management, the coaches all said, you know what, we just need to be defensively solid, and we might get chances from set pieces, we might be able to create something in the game, but our job is the defensive side of things. Keep the clean sheet, that's at least a point, and see if we can nick a goal at the other end. Lefay, he was obviously out injured for this game. It looks like his injury isn't that serious, so hopefully he could come back in for Aston Villa. That'll give us that little bit of creativity in there, which we need, because I think our team is built to be physically strong and aerially dominant and all those good things, but we don't necessarily have that connection between the midfield and attack, which I think will come, and Lefay will be a big part of that. I've seen criticism of Talby, and look, I think Talby is offering us a lot defensively this season. I think that he's been really, really strong on that side of the ball, and I think that's why he's in the team. The manager clearly trusts him. He's playing like the most minutes of all the wingers that we've had. He's not bringing him off early. He's trusting him to play a lot of, pretty much 90 minutes in every single game. He isn't creating much, and I'm hoping that will come for him. That if we could add that into his game, then you've got a really top quality winger. But the fact that he's really good at the defensive side of the game does fill me with a lot of confidence. So it's interesting. I can't recall him creating much in any of our 4 games this season. I think he did get an assist for Isidore's goal against West Ham on the opening day, but it's food for thought, I think, to just think about what that right wing position is going to look like, and whether or not Traore could potentially be an option to come in there and start ahead of Talby. I think the striker position is really hard to judge. Isidore and Mayenda in the games that they've started this season are basically feeding off scraps. There isn't a lot for them to do. I mean, they've scored 3 goals between them, which is really, really impressive. Isidore had a couple of, and I wouldn't even call them half chances, but like quarter chances yesterday where he could have done something. He runs a lot, hurries the defence, same as Mayenda, but it's just they're not getting tons of chances. They're not massively involved in the games. And look, Bromley came on yesterday. You can't judge him off 20 minutes. It was a really difficult situation for him to be in, where we were then coming defensively. We were sitting further and further back. So for a striker to come on, it's always going to be hard. So it's going to be interesting to see how he fits into this equation, and whether or not they think, Bromley can be 60, 65 minutes of being the big battering ram who works on the defences, and then you've got Isidore Mayenda who can come on and change things. And let's look around the league as well, because in Sunderland's pursuit of survival, and even doing more than that this season, you have to look at how other teams are doing. Wolves, no points from their first 4 league games this season. They are a team we need to target to survive. They went to Newcastle yesterday, got beat 1-0. They just look, they just don't look great right now. The manager had said that he was concerned after the defeat against Newcastle. They lost at home against Everton as well, which is obviously a big red flag. So for them, it's really concerning. We've got 7 points on them already this season, which is massive. Leeds, 4 points, but dropped a massive point yesterday against Fulham. Last minute goal. And it's a similar game to us. We played Crystal Palace. They played Fulham. Both strong mid-table Premier League teams, and Leeds lose the game at the end, and we managed to hold on, and that's massive for us. These are important points. The ones that we've picked up yesterday against Crystal Palace, that's an important point, and that point that Leeds dropped against Fulham could be massive for them come the end of the season. They play Wolves next, so that's a really, really interesting game. I think we'll learn a lot about both of them teams from how that game plays out next weekend at Molineux. Aston Villa, and look, they're not going to be in relegation trouble this season, but they haven't scored a goal yet. They've just got 2 points. They drew yesterday against Everton 0-0. Didn't create all that much in the game. And it feels like a game that wasn't particularly winnable. When I saw this fixture list at the start of the season, I was like, we'll do well to get a point. Now it's a winnable game because Aston Villa are struggling so much in front of goal, and there are clearly issues there. And hopefully we're getting them at a point in the season where they aren't going to be hitting top gear. They've stuttered out of the gate to begin with, and it feels unlikely that next week it'll all click for them. So hopefully we're getting them at a really, really good time. Burnley, we know, struggle. They haven't played yet as of this time of recording. I think we've got Liverpool today. West Ham were woeful against Spurs yesterday. Yes, they did beat Forest 3-0 just before the international break, but it looks like West Ham have got massive issues. They win that game at Forest and everyone thinks, you know what, maybe they're not as bad, but awful. 2 games at home in London derbies, they've been pathetic this season. And are Sunderland that far behind other mid-table teams like Brentford, Fulham and even Crystal Palace? And, I think the answer to that question is we can match them on our day. We did pretty well matching Crystal Palace yesterday. I think it's fair to say Palace were the better team, but we did nullify a lot of their threats throughout the game. So I think we have to take a lot of pride from that game yesterday and what we've seen from this team so far this season, because a lot of people looked at the start and went, well, do you know what, they've got 6 points from 2 winnable home games, but they are all established Premier League teams. We picked up 7 points from 3 teams that have been in the Premier League for a long time. So we deserve a lot of credit for that. We did lose against Burnley, and that's a learning curve, and I think we saw yesterday what we learned from that Burnley defeat. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below about our start of the season and the game against Crystal Palace yesterday. We'll catch you for another video very soon.